This is John Lee, your local real estate agent in the Philadelphia, greater Philadelphia area. I am here with my buddy Igor. He is also a real estate investor. If you want to let the audience know a little bit more about what you do and what you got going on.
I bought my first property at the age of 19. I had no idea what I was doing. And I am 38 now, so I've been doing it for a little while. It was a tough time, but I learned a lot. I was kind of forced to be a landlord because we couldn't sell the house. Yeah, so that was my first house. But eventually, I learned from people who kind of knew the right thing to do.
Have like a high level education, if that's what you want to call it. Yet you've created success, not just in real estate, but we didn't even touch upon the other things that you did while doing real estate. So you were working while doing this, right? While building all of this, right?
I wish I would started thinking bigger earlier, because you move a lot quicker, and it kind of forces you to get real clear on what you're doing, because the bigger you think, like, there's actually less options available, and it actually makes it easier, narrows down your decisions for you.
I don't know why or what, like maybe it's because I was afraid, I don't know, but there were a lot of reasons, mixed emotions of why I didn't do it, but I 100% agree with you. I think the way that we generate success is to ask for it and not to be afraid to ask for help.
John Lee Real Estate, find you the best rate. All throughout Philly like Schuylkill Expressway. Talking to people who
Hello everyone, this is John Lee, your local real estate agent in the Philadelphia, greater Philadelphia area. I am here with my buddy Igor. He is also a real estate investor. I know it's been some time, guys, since we actually talked about real estate, or at least real estate investing in particular, and he is a local expert. So, Igor, if you want to let the audience know a little bit more about what you do and what you got going on.
Sure. And thanks so much, man, for having me on your podcast. I am honored and really excited. I hope that I can add some value here. I really appreciate you having me on, man. So like you said, I'm in Philadelphia a lot, doing real estate, full-time investor, basically doing rentals and flips for the most part. I bought my first property at the age of 19. I had no idea what I was doing. And I am 38 now, so I've been doing it for a little while.
How that came about, like your story. I know we talked about it like off record, but like if you can kind of walk us through why real estate. Were you always in real estate? Were you working at the time? Were you doing a little bit of both?
Yeah, that's a good question. So listen, like a lot of people, my mom actually immigrated to the U.S. I think like 89 or 90. So I was really small, and single mom raised me. We didn't have a lot, right? So I always kind of wanted to. There were certain things that I wanted, right? And I knew that I needed to make money to get those things. In particular, kind of what somewhat kicked my journey off is back in the day, I wanted one of those Nextel cell phones. I don't know if you remember, like the chirp.
Yeah. Who's next?
Yeah. Did you have one of those, man?
No, I did not. My dad, I think, might have had like was it Motorola, like the chirping type of phones? Yeah, but I did not.
You didn't have one of those.
Nah, man, I ain't had that kind of money. I'm sorry.
Well, I didn't either, man. So that's, I mean, I did kind of the wrong things. Like I was skipping school, and I had to go to like this truancy court, and there's like this whole other thing. But eventually I kind of figured out, that I need to work hard, and I got this job, telemarketing, which led to me doing mortgages ultimately. So I was kind of in the mortgage business, so adjacent to real estate, understanding kind of how real estate works. And I dropped out of high school. I went to I got accepted to a good school, Central in Philadelphia, for a little while, and I dropped out of high school so I could work, and I bought that cell phone. That's kind of what spurred it on. In like 2007, like the mortgage market was tanking, the economy was bad. We had like a real estate focused kind of recession at that time, and for whatever reason, at 19, I decided to buy my first house. At that time, the house was all the way in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Oh, it's in Pittsburgh, of all places. Okay.
Yeah, it was a customer of mine, a mortgage customer, and I think they had a construction business, and we were supposed to buy it together. The house was in my name; they were going to do the work. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, the way it's planned. And actually, at this stage of my life, I was making good money in the mortgage business. I had like, nice car, motorcycle, all these things were going on for a young kid, right? Like I really didn't understand about assets and liabilities and how to spend money correctly. And then we have this recession, and I had made some other bad investment decisions. So it was a tough time, but I learned a lot. I was kind of forced to be a landlord because we couldn't sell the house. And so that was my first house. But eventually I learned from people who kind of knew the right thing to do, and they showed me the way, and I was able to kind of really understand what to do in real estate.
Let's go back to the deal, your first deal, right? So you bought it with the intentions of what, flipping it, and then you ended up
Hmm.
selling it. Okay. Can you explain that story a little bit in detail on that? And what did the numbers look like?
It was cheap. I mean, that's the only saving grace. It was cheap. So I think the house got purchased for around $30,000. I actually took a loan from a bank to purchase that. I had, my credit was good, still good, but at the time it was good.
This is 18
And
years old, right?
yeah, I think 19, but yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's
yeah,
pretty impressive. Okay, go ahead.
yeah. It was a low money down loan, and basically this guy was supposed to do the work. He had a construction business. He's located over there locally, and then some things came up for him, and I think he did some of the work, but ultimately I'm not sure what we spent on the rehab. Um, but I think what wound up happening later is I found a guy, my neighbor. I was living at my mom's house. There was a guy living in their basement who did constructions, like one guy, and he like, his English wasn't that good, but he was like, "Yeah, I'll go to Pittsburgh. Just pay for my hotel, and I'll go."
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, and so he went and he did like all this stuff, right? And he got it to the point where it was rentable. So I had, I think, one set of tenants in there. And they lived there for a long time, but I learned like this, like I didn't go to college. Oh, I did get an associate's degree later, but this was like a lesson. You know what I mean? Like I learned a lot about like just by doing these things, like what not to do. There's a lot of mistakes made, and the tenants lived there for a while. I got a line of credit against that property to pay off the mortgage. And like I said, at that time it was tough. My income was down, and I kind of lived off of that line of credit for like a little while. You know what I mean? Like I had, because I had put construction money out, I made some other bad investments, and I was drawing. Ultimately, that property got sold for a loss like 10 years later. I had money, and I put more money in to fix it up and sell it. But not a great deal. It was more valuable in kind of the lessons like that. I would say that's a real thing. Like I have a property now as a short-term rental, my first one, and it's doing okay, but definitely a lot of mistakes made. But I'm pretty excited about the things that I've learned that I can apply. Like that's something that I didn't understand before is like, and I think Ray Dalio has this good thing like pain plus reflection equals progress, right? So like, a lot of times you take the pain and you avoid it. And I think I did that for a while. But if you can take it and then think about it, then you kind of see like the path just becomes clear. So it definitely helped in that sense, but not financially. It was not a financial win at all.
Yeah. No, man, you're like definitely cut from a different cloth. Like, I remember when you and I were hiking, and I had to ask you like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, wait, you didn't get a college degree, and you're like, no, and like, didn't you say like someone took your GED test or something? Like, what's the funny story behind that? Like,
Yeah, that was a non-recorded conversation, Joe, but I guess yeah, my friend, his name is Tanu. You could take a high school equivalency test, and there was part of it we did it from the computer. He did it in my basement. I remember on like back when you had like dial-up and stuff on my
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's insane, bro. Like, I mean, what are your thoughts on that as far as just like you have obviously amounted an extreme amount of success in the real estate industry and you've specialized in it, right? How does that differ from like, what we have traditionally learned from, from schools and like why is that something that you either weren't either good at or you didn't feel like you were good at, or what made you deviate from what other people are naturally accustomed to doing?
I mean, nothing really too glamorous, man. Like I was a pretty smart kid. People told me I was smart all my life, and then I went to this high school, Central, where everybody's smart. So I was like a big fish in a small pond. I became like a small fish in a big pond, and it was hard. And I wasn't used to like struggling with stuff. Everything came easy. Didn't work well for me, man. Some kids did really well, and unfortunately, like I started skipping school and like hanging with the wrong people. I went the other way. It just kind of is how it happened. But I think it's good to kind of question, like, like you said, like go to college. Like my mom is still asking me when I'm going to go to college. You know what I mean? Like she still asks me, why am I not a lawyer or a doctor? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? She asked me. I think it's good to kind of question because there's a lot of people that uh, have degrees and, they kind of got a degree, but they didn't know what they wanted. So they accumulated this debt and they got some benefit out of it. They made connections, they learned things, but they kind of puts you in a weird spot. I think you got to figure out what your what works for you, not what somebody says is supposed to work. As you know, there's a lot of people who are, there's going to be a shortage of electricians, especially if they continue to build data centers, right? That's what you're hearing. And
Right.
I work with electricians, and I know they make good money. Like some of these guys are making easily $1,000 a day, right? Like between 500 and $1,000 a day. And it's not necessarily always easy work, but it's much needed work. So yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but I don't think you have to go to college to be successful. But I'm not saying college is bad either. It does seem like if you do it, going to a good school probably has a marginally better effect than like a lower tier school. So
For
like
sure.
maybe that's some, yeah.
For sure. I mean, it's kind of like, where is your starting point? Like you try, like every parent, every person wants to put their kid in the best starting point possible, right? But it's ultimately up to the kid and the person to like start and then ultimately finish, right? So yeah, I 100% agree with you. I only asked because I think you have such a unique story in that you did not traditionally, have like a high level education, if that's what you want to call it. Yet you've created success, not just in real estate, but we didn't even touch upon the other things that you did while doing real estate. So you were working while doing this, right? While building all of this, right? Like explain what you were doing to get to the point where you are now. You were running, like the point that I'm trying to make, Igor, is I know that you had a job while doing real estate, right? And eventually you made a decision to say, okay, I'm going to be real estate full time. How was that transition? What's that story like for you?
That's true. I probably my most serious job was at Wells Fargo. It was Wachovia when I first started, but I worked there probably a little over 10 years. And I started in the branch, like as a banker, and I was able to quickly move to like a branch manager. And that only happened because I said yes. Like when you're young, you got to say yes to stuff. They had like a Wells Fargo store, they used to call them. That was in a supermarket. It was 7 days a week. The manager left. Nobody wanted that job. And it just kind of happened that nobody wanted it because it's open 7 days a week. And they're like, they have me like a newer banker who seems like, I understand what's going on. Like I'm reliable. Hey, do you want it? I was like, sure. And I wasn't married yet. So I took it. It was tough. There was times where I think I worked like 23 days straight, like the one time because we didn't have another banker. But listen, I learned a lot. So after that, I moved to the merchant services department in Wells Fargo, and I did really well there. And I worked there for a while. Ultimately, I got like one of those. I was always in like a customer facing job, but I got into one of those like corporate jobs where you can work from home and do stuff. And it was a 6-figure job, and it helped me do a lot of things. Right, like we had 2 kids while I was employed there. They had really good benefits. I think with my daughter, I was home for like 6 months, right, as the dad, which is, that's
Awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And ultimately, I did get back into real estate, and I started building up rentals, and I started doing flips, and kind of like had additional income. My wife was able to not work with both kids, which was also it was a blessing, right? And
Right.
so we did that, and I had always known, right, from the time like I bought that house, that I wanted to do my own thing. Like sometimes I would just be a pain in the butt for my bosses, right? Like too opinionated, like just difficult. Like, I'll get stuff done, I'll show up, but like my personality, right? Like,
You're destined to be an entrepreneur. That's what it was.
maybe destined. That's a nice way of saying it. Just doesn't fit too well into other places. Although I did 10 years there, right? So I can't be
Yeah.
that bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just didn't know how to do it, right? And that was a big thing. Like I worry less now about the how. And that's a weird thing, but I think as you're starting out, you kind of like you feel like if you know how, that's the only thing holding you back. And the truth is, having the courage or having like a reason to do it or like the fire is probably just as important, if not like I think you overvalue the how when you are, just trying to figure things out. The how is actually not as important as we think it is, right?
Right.
So I was just like, well, how do I do this? And I tried some things, right? Like I tried to open like a little store, a retail store. Taking action is the key. If anything, I wish I would have been able to like take action and like fail quicker and just do it over faster because you do need a couple reps. So yeah, so I was working there. I had eventually enough income outside of my job that could support my family. I mean, there's like a couple factors. Like it wasn't like a brilliant plan that I had. Quite frankly, I'll tell you that I was just burned out. Like I was probably working from I don't know, like starting around 7 a.m. and I would get done like 11 to midnight between doing my work and my real estate stuff. I was the least healthy that I've ever been. I would kind of close the door to my office. My wife would be with the kids. I would step out for dinner, and that's it, right? And then say goodnight to them. And this went on for intermittently for a couple years, but like really just like nonstop, probably for more than 6 months. And at that point, I just didn't care anymore. Like I physically didn't care.
Right.
So I think that's part of it. Like I just wore down, right? So like the fear was not as much. And the second part of it was I did have a runway of probably 6+ months of like income that I could count on. So I think that's an important thing. Like, and there's other factors we can talk about, but I just want to highlight that one of the main things, if somebody's thinking about doing their own thing and currently they have a steady, paycheck every 2 weeks, is as good as your plan is, at some point you have to just take a leap. Like you get to this point where it's like you're standing on the edge of a cliff and you can't really see what's below you. And you either jump or you don't jump, right? And if you jump, your hope is that there's something soft there to catch you, or, you, whatever, right? Like you don't die. And you just have to take that jump. And for me, it was literally I just didn't care anymore. I was just like too tired. I was like, you know what? Like it is what it is. And you do it.
Yeah. I think at that point you mentioned pain, right? So pain was probably the most motivating factor, right? Whether it was just like mentally, physically, for you, it was just really excruciating to the point you were just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm jumping.
Yeah, I couldn't continue on as I
Yeah.
was for much longer. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for someone who wants to, and I think you touched upon this, right, already, but I want to kind of piggyback here, and continue that discussion. For someone who wants to get into real estate, but is still looking over the ledge, right, and making that decision and second guessing themselves, what kind of suggestions do you have for that person?
Yeah. So I think a big one is who are you surrounding yourself with? Um, especially if in your circle most of the people are not doing the thing that you're trying to do, right? Like, so let's say you're, I'm just going to say a doctor, right? And a doctor's an amazing profession. Let's say you're a doctor and everybody else around you are doctors. Let's say you're a firefighter, a police officer, and everybody else around you is that. It's going to be um, less clear, like what steps like you would take to get to where you want to get if you don't have somebody else to look at. And that became very blatant to me as I started to expand my network, and I would associate with the people who were doing this full time, and I was like, wait a second, I can do this. Like you know what I mean? And you kind of get comfortable with it. So I think that's a big first step. And obviously listening to podcasts like this and like learning like as you're driving, I've listened to so many hours, so many hours of podcasts, like crazy amount. That helps. That's a big factor. Another thing, this is not as important, but it's something to just keep in the back of your mind is you're used to getting paid, let's say every 2 weeks. Like let's say somebody like myself used to getting paid every 2 weeks.
Right.
As a business owner, you don't get paid. I mean, you can, right? You can pay yourself from your company, but like money a lot of times comes in. You might get a large amount in, and then it might be a dribble for a little while. It's just getting used to that chaos, right? Like you have this like habit of like, you see a check every 2 weeks. Like a lot of times it's not a big deal. And a lot of times as a business owner, you don't even always need to make as much money to keep the same amount, because you have tax advantages and things like that. It's just getting used to a little bit of chaos. One thing, and as I mentioned before, having that runway is a big factor. Like whatever you're doing, if it's real estate, or you're going to invest, like having some money. But here's something I read recently, and I wonder if John, I wonder if you kind of struggle with this or what your thoughts are on this. But like, I read something like the most successful people are really good at asking for help. They don't tie their ego or shame or anything like that when they ask for help. Like they can just ask. Like they don't care about their pride. Like they don't feel like, like, oh, I have to do this alone, or I'm weak if I ask for help. Like they ask for help, and they're really good at asking. And I think that's something that I'm trying to get better at. I don't know what you think about that, or if that resonates at all.
Yeah, 100%, man. So like for our audience, the way that Igor and I had actually met was, ironically, it wasn't through just real estate. Like it just so happened that we're both in the same field. we're in the same accountability group through GoBundance, that allows us to really like connect with each other and be better family, like be a better family person, be a better person in handling our finances, and all sorts of other things that we all try to do as men. And that's how we met. But where I think I mentioned this to you, right, Igor? Like while we were on our hike together, uh, this year with the accountability group of GoBundance, I really tried to make a full effort to reach out to everyone for what you're saying for help. So yeah, I don't know for me if it was necessarily because of a pride thing. I don't know if it's like it just like I don't know why or what. Like maybe it's because I was afraid. I don't know, but there were a lot of reasons, mixed emotions of why I didn't do it. But I 100% agree with you. I think the way that we generate success is to ask for it and not to be afraid to ask for help.
Sometimes it's that, imposter syndrome, right? And I've definitely felt it, like,
I mean, we talked about that
oh,
too. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel weird to ask because, I'm not worthy or whatever, whatever these kind of things that come up in your head. Um, I had a similar conversation earlier with somebody. Like, if you're going to ask for help, I think this is helpful. If you're going to ask for help from somebody who you feel like is at a higher level than you, right? Sometimes this is complicated, right? Like, how do I go to this person? Like, I bring no value to them. How do I ask for help? Um, I think number one, the idea that you don't bring value, I don't think that's necessarily true. You don't know what that person is thinking. They may actually have a goal of like helping people. Like you and I actually know people really successful who literally have a goal of like helping like 100 people. Like that's like that's like their mission right now, right? But there's other reasons. But I think to get more specific on this is a lot of times what I see when people come, let's say somebody new in real estate comes to ask for help. Um, they kind of do it in a lazy way. And I think that feeling that you're getting sometimes is your back of your head telling you like you're actually like there's a better way to ask for help. You're not ready to ask for help. So I'll give you an example. Let's say um, you're dealing with a situation. Let's say you bought a property and you're like not sure what to do. I think sometimes a knee-jerk reaction is easy to just go like ask somebody like, yo, what would you do here? Well, this person could be busy. Like, the question is not specific. It's very broad. Like, what do you want me to tell you? You know what I mean? Like sometimes I have time to sit and talk. Sometimes like it's like, well, I can't do it for you, right? But I think it's a different question if you're like, hey, here's like 4 or 5 things that I have done already, right? And here's where I think I need to go, or maybe like here's like 2 places I think I need to go. But my specific challenges with these 2 things are X, Y, and Z. How would you handle this situation? Like if you've shown you've done the work and you've talked to other people and you're legitimately like trying to solve like a real problem, I think actually really successful people, really busy people will appreciate that because it gives them a chance to add value. It gives them a chance to connect, and also seeing somebody who's like really doing stuff is always exciting for like an entrepreneur or whoever. I don't know if I explained that well, but hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to get help, generally a lot of people always talk about how can you provide value to get that help, right? But I think also where you're touching upon, which I didn't even think of until now, is uh, you mentioned being specific, but also really honing in on trying to figure out like why are you reaching out? Like why are you reaching out and the specifics of that. So like in steps, right? I think you mentioned. So like I mean, what like if you want to explain that a little bit in detail just for our audience, like what do you like? How would you go about asking someone that is 10 levels higher than you and you're thinking in the back of your mind, hey, I want to provide value for this person, but how would you present that in your case as an example?
I think there's 2 separate things here, and I could talk about both of them. The first part is how do you ask for help, even though you might feel like you're not worthy or imposter syndrome or like why would this person? How do you get over that? Um, and you mentioned adding value, and I can talk about how I've done that with mentors in the past. But there's also like I think there's a distinction between asking for help and bringing somebody your problems. I think if you get that weird feeling in your head, it might be because you intuitively know that you're bringing somebody your own problem, right? And I think bringing a problem is like, here's my situation. Like, what do you do, right? Like, it's pretty broad, and it doesn't show that you've done the work, and you're looking for guidance. versus like I had a boss. She used to say, "Bring me solutions, not problems." And what she meant by that was, we're going to have problems, but show me that you like, here's the problem. Here's what I think we should do. And then I'll give you input. Like she didn't want like, what do I do here? Like that, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a distinction. Like, what do I do versus like, here's the problem. Here's what I think we should do. What do you think about that?
I think the other step is maybe to take it even a step further is instead of suggesting what should we do, right? Just say, hey, this is what I've done. Like these are
Hmm.
the action steps that I've taken. What did I miss here? So like when I first started in real estate for our listeners, I went to a seminar. My mentor at the time, Nick Tang, still my mentor. I went up to him and I was like, "Hey, like, how do I even just like start getting into real estate?" He was like, "Well, put in an offer." So then, guess what I did? I put in an offer, and he was like, "All right, well, what happens if I don't like the property? The property doesn't work out." Well, you can back out as long as you have your due diligence. So then I'm like putting in offers. I don't like some of these houses, so then I backed out. So like I literally went to him after each step was done. Like I went to step one, then I went to step two, then I went to step three, but I did not ask him how do I get to step 10, right? Right off the get-go. I asked him, hey, how do I get to step one, two, three? And as he was seeing that I was progressing and understanding how the real estate game ended up working, then I started to provide him value by like, all right, well, I know how to actually do this whole entire step from one to 10. Now I can start, promoting his network and promoting his events. So then I'm actually one of his like I speak at a lot of his engagements and events. So like again, that's how I provide value for him because he was able to provide value for me by teaching me, but I was not looking at it now, I was very action oriented and I was like taking it into each individual step as opposed to saying, hey, how do I do it? Teach me how to do it. I actually just went out and I kind of figured it out, but there were still questions that I had along the way. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but if you wanted to add on to that.
I think it illustrates a point, and what you did is like you had Nick in the back, kind of like it gave you confidence to have somebody like that that you can go to, um, and and I think what it illustrates is that like there's this idea like I heard on podcasts like, oh, if you want help from somebody, if you want a mentor, you need to go like tell them you're going to sweep their demos, you're going to go like work for free or whatever. And
Yeah.
there could be people like that, but I think like if somebody came to me and was like, hey, I want to do stuff, like it would actually give me like a something I'd have to figure out like what are they good at? Where can I send them? It actually would give me more to do versus just somebody coming like you and saying, hey, like I'm serious about this. And I'm like, all right, well, do this thing. Like it doesn't take a lot of time and energy. But if you actually do that thing that I said, and then you come back like, hey, I actually did that thing, like what would like this is what I'm thinking. What would be the second thing? Like, believe it or not, that in itself adds value. Like I'm going through it right now with somebody and he's like very action oriented and like whatever we talk about like he's on it and it's like fulfilling for me actually
Mhm.
to see that and then guess what we've actually done deals together, so that's the second thing with my in terms of like the really good mentorships that I have. um I would be the one that would like bring a deal, right? I have a deal, I wasn't sure how to handle it, and I'm like, "Hey, I have this deal, here's what I think. um would you be interested in somehow working out a way to do this deal together? Maybe I sell you the deal, maybe we buy it together, whatever." And that's been like the fastest way to gain a mentor that has added a lot of value for me. And then they've benefited financially. But I also do think, they always answer my call, right? So there's a reason for that too. I think it's because I'm taking action, right? And they see maybe some of themselves in it. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
not necessarily sweeping brooms or like what you think it's supposed to be.
Yeah. I think you definitely, if you're trying to be mentored by someone or coach someone, you definitely want to provide them that you're extremely action oriented. And if there is steps that are required, that you take those steps, you learn from them. You're going to make mistakes, right? They're going to say, hey, you fucked up here, 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 or hey, you did this right here. Now you can proceed to the next step. So, I mean, I mean, to kind of like switch gears a little bit, where
Mhm.
are you finding some common pitfalls though? Like, especially if someone wants to come up to you or even to me, even for me, I get asked, every so often, hey, how can I work with John Lee Real Estate? Or hey, how can I work with Igor? Like, what are the common pitfalls that you're finding with people when they're asking, when they're trying to get your help, or when you're trying to figure out whether or not if it's how do I say it, worth your time to continue investing?
I think in general, right? Like the common issues are not really understanding in real estate specifically, like what a lot of times people don't understand what they're looking at, right? Like, so this is a broader question, but a mentor of mine gave me this idea of like different kinds of money. You have like fast money, medium money, and long money, right? So we're just kind of stepping all the way back. So depending on what your goal is, maybe you just want to buy rental properties. Like you have, let's say, a good job, you want to keep your job, and you're looking to diversify. You want to buy rental properties. Rental properties would be long money. You don't make money right away on a rental property. It's like a longer term investment.
Right.
Maybe you're like just trying to have enough income where you don't have to have a full-time job. You can have flexibility. You can your own business. Well, you need like fast money and you need medium money for that. So example of medium money would be like doing flips, right? Flips are kind of like medium term.
Right.
Fast money would be maybe you're going to be a real estate agent. You're getting commissions, or you're doing wholesaling. Something like that. That would be fast money in terms of real estate. But yeah, long money is rentals, development deals, new construction. All these things are kind of longer money. But you need all three to, unless you just have a ton of money sitting, right? Then you do whatever you want. But like, there's a lot of ways to do rentals. I know a guy who has a successful business, and he buys rentals only in like nice areas in Bucks County. And his rentals don't really cash flow. He just puts a lot of money down, right? Like he just has extra money, and he thinks about it like a savings account. So like he gets cash every month, but it's really just a return of his own principal, above the mortgage payment. But in his mind, he's like, look, if I get 10 of these, by the time I retire, they're going to be worth combined a couple $1,000,000. I'll have them paid off. And that's like my long-term savings plan, right? Like that's one idea. There's people who start, wholesaling, right? They do it right. People want to do flips. So does that kind of help? I think it just depends on what your goal is, because there's a lot of ways to make money.
If someone came up to you, right, Igor, and they wanted to either partner with you on a deal, or if they wanted to learn from you, right, how can they provide either value, or how can they answer or ask the right questions so that you can engage and move forward in potentially working with that person?
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So if somebody reached out, I think there's a couple ways that I'll just throw some things out. So number one, like if somebody's action oriented, I would love to help, right? Like I would love to help. And just seeing them take action, like we talked about earlier, would be great. And I would help as much as I could. Ideally, if somebody comes and it's like, hey, I think I have this deal, or like, maybe I given them some context on what a deal should look like. I think I have this deal. How can we do this deal together? That's great for me, right? Like I make money, they make money, they reduce the risk, because there's things I know that they might not know, right? That we can avoid.
Right.
And that's great. Another thing is like I do some private lending. So maybe somebody's like, hey, I have a deal, I need the money. I can lend to them. I also borrow money privately within my business to do deals. So maybe somebody's like, well, I'd rather just like be the money person, or lend the money. And they can approach me that way. The other thing too I'm experimenting with is doing a little bit of coaching. If somebody's like, hey, like I want, accountability. I want somebody to walk me through these steps, hold me accountable. Depending on the person, like it's something I would, I'd probably have to like talk to them first and just understand. But and I don't think I'm unique. I think if we're talking about real estate specifically, which is interesting compared to other businesses, like let's say you wanted to get into the business of building apps, or like installing septic tanks or whatever. Like I think real estate is cool because you can say, hey, it's pretty accessible to everybody, and you can approach different ways. So yeah, would love to help anybody action oriented. If they have deals they want to talk about, I do deals with other people. That's always great. Maybe a lending client, or somebody who is a lender, or potentially coaching. So I think there's a lot of ways, right, to interact.
Yeah, perfect. And just for our listeners, because we're going to be wrapping this up, where can our listeners follow you or reach out to you if possible?
That's something I need help with, and actually I'm trying to learn from you, man. But yeah, so anybody can reach out to me if they just go to so I'm the licensee for something called WeBuyHouses.com for Philadelphia.
Mhm.
My email is Igor@WeBuyHouses.com. Or they can go to the website. If they look up Philadelphia, they'll find me. Um, but that's really it. I don't have like a too much of a social presence or anything like that. I got to work on that.
Or you could DM me and I can let Igor know, right?
100%, if you don't mind. Yeah.
I got you. I got you. Any parting words that you have for our guests?
They're probably closer to their goal than they realize, right? Like there's different ways to do this. And probably the biggest part is that leap I discussed earlier. So just like taking this leap, that's probably the hardest thing. But the actual nuts and bolts of it, like it's probably easier than you think. The other thing I would say is two other things would be action like trumps thinking and inaction all day long. Like taking imperfect action, action solves problems. If you have a problem, like sitting and thinking on it is good to a certain extent, but ultimately taking action, like not taking action, will actually create more problems. Um, and then the last thing I would say is to think bigger, right? That's something I'm working with. Is like if you think you need, let's say rentals, let's say you think you need 10 rentals, I would, there's a book like 10x is better than 2x, and there's some cool ideas in there, or it's easier than I might have got the book title wrong, but you, I wish I would started thinking bigger earlier, because you move a lot quicker, and it kind of forces you to get real clear on what you're doing. Because the bigger you think, like there's actually less options available, and it actually makes it easier, narrows down your decisions for you. So
Mm.
yeah, I would say think bigger than you think you need to, right? You're like, oh, I want to get one rental or whatever. Think maybe 100. Maybe you need a large, like think in that direction, and different things start to happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Igor, thank you for everything. And for our listeners, I will provide all his information below. And if you need to reach out, either reach out to Igor directly or directly to me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, John, for having
You
me.
got it. All right.
John Lee Real Estate, find you the best rate. All throughout Philly like Schuylkill Expressway. Talking to people who out of